The first order of business is Chair Michelson Cohen can't be here. She's not feeling well. I heard from her husband today. She's got some kind of stomach problems, and she's not feeling well. So we need a chairman pro tem, and we would need a motion and a second and an approval to make that happen.
I'm happy to nominate George Tavis, being the senior commissioner and the longest serving commissioner of the Architectural Commission.
I second.
Oh, thank you.
You're not that old, George, are you?
I feel old, John.
So how do we, who says all in favor, say aye?
Jim.
Yeah, there's been a motion and a second to make George the chairman pro tem. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays?
Yes.
No nays? Okay, George, I have also just made you co-host for what that's worth.
Okay.
The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. All right. Thank you, guys. So the first order of business is the review and approval of the May, it's been a long time, the May 18th of 2020 draft minute meetings. I think that was actually written in Sanskrit. So review them carefully. Is any commentary towards those? Well, actually, let me back up slightly. Matthew, I guess this is your first commission meeting, right?
Yes, it is.
So welcome and thanks for joining the commission and being here with us. So that's going to be 1A, then the minutes will be 1B. So welcome.
Thank you very much.
So any commentary on the minute meetings from last May?
None.
We good?
No, it looks good.
Everybody's good? Motion to accept the minutes as written?
Make a motion to accept the minutes of the meeting as written.
I'll
Very
second.
good. Second, all right. Thanks, Alan. Thanks, John. All in favor? Aye.
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 So moved. Okay, great, fantastic. Let's see, here, the second item. This is a challenge. Wow, okay. Apologize. Oh, here we go. All right. Second item is consideration of requests for replacement of the sign, actually signage, I think in this case, for 4192 Route 83, which is the Sunset Grove kind of shopping center, if you will, submitted by Neon Prism Electric in relation to Caldwell Banker and the Realty signs that they have submitted that were electronically sent to us by Jim. It looks like it's just a straight swap out and or new signs, their corporate logo. But Jim, can you give us any other details on that? I would appreciate it.
Thank you. You are correct, George. This is a swap out. The property is part of the Sunset Grove development. Building A was one of the last structures to be built. You all did look at this signage back in 2014. Caldwell Banker is actually the anchor tenant for this building. You are aware that there are special signage regulations that were approved as part of the PUD. This will be a replacement signage. There is no change in square footage. They are simply swapping out the panel and changing the copy. It will be backlit LED, I believe as existing, blue and white in color to go with the corporate colors and logo on the sign. They also will be installing a placard out on the frontage. Again, the placards are all standardized, and again, it will just change the color and the font and those kinds of things to mirror the signage that's being placed on the building. Mr. Eric Smith is here from representing the petitioner from Prism Electric, I believe it is.
Yes.
And yes, Neon Prism Electric Sign Company. If you have any questions for me or him, we will try to answer them to the best of our ability.
So I'll open the floor to the commissioners. You guys got any questions you want to bring up? For me personally, I was pretty much okay with everything. I don't think I have any questions. But you know, we would just, for the sake of keeping some order, I'll kind of go in the order I see you on my screen. So it doesn't mean I'm skipping you, but just so that we don't all kind of talk at the same time, maybe we'll just do it this way. Laura, do you have any comments on this or questions?
No, it's pretty much straightforward. And they're all individual letters, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Okay, great.
Okay, thanks, Laura. Jeannie, you have any questions or commentary?
No, first it's Jean.
Jean,
But secondly, it's okay.
all
No,
these
that,
years.
I know, it's okay. No, I just wanted to, that was my question too, is just to confirm, even though it did say it in the materials we received, I just wanted to confirm that they were individual channel letters and not track letting, and it says that they are. So I'm fine with it. I think it looks terrific.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Jean. Sorry.
It's okay,
Matthew,
Georgie.
do you have any comments or questions?
No, to me, it looked pretty straightforward. Everything seems to, about almost essentially the same size as what's already there. So I think it looked good. I think it fulfills the parameters that it needs to have.
Okay, very good. Thank you. John, do you have anything you want to ask or?
No concerns, George. I think it all looks good. So I'd say it's fine.
Alan, I think that just leaves you. Do you have any questions?
Finally, myself, no, I agree with all the other commissioners that the new signage is acceptable.
Okay, fantastic. If we have no other questions and we seem to be quite happy with it, can I have a motion for approval?
I make a motion for approval of the signage, the replacement of the Colo Baker signage at Sunset Grove.
Thanks, Alan. Do I have a second?
Sure, I'm happy to second.
Jean, thank you. And all those in favor? Aye.
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 All those opposed? No opposed? So moved. Congratulations. Thank you. We wish you success for your client. And you have any other questions for us before we move to the next item?
Nope, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, then our third item today would be consideration of a preliminary plans and plats, including landscaping and the signage for a new proposed 19 lot single-family development and the vacant property on the south side of Cuba Road, which is to be known as Phillip Estates. They have a PDU. It's been submitted by Phillip Estates LLC. I guess this was formerly called Canterbury Park PUD. Jim, do you want to give us any other details before we go too much further?
Sure, I'd be happy to. The property consists of about 35 acres. It is currently zoned R1 PUD. As part of this PUD approval, they, excuse me, are asking for a reclassification to R2 PUD. The Planning Commission did review that request and did recommend approval. There is a density bonus on it to get them to the 19 single-family lots. It will be served by public sewer and a private water system. The Canterbury Park proposal, again, just as a little bit of background, was to be 3-acre lots and served by a communal septic. We have one other in the community that's in Eastgate Estates. They have found that the lots at that size and with the septic and everything are simply not marketable. So that's what's driving this request to come back in and reclassify and get the 19 lots on the public sewer and water. The Planning Commission did, again, make a recommendation on this at their March 3rd meeting, and you have that recommendation with their conditions that were approved unanimously. The village board also looked at it and directed council to go ahead and prepare the necessary approval documents for consideration at the March 23rd meeting. There are certain aspects of this that are relegated to the AC for review, and those are the plan and plat, the overall design, the signage, and the landscaping. You have a very nice rendering by Larry Durzik, who is the landscape architect for the project. He's here representing the petitioner, so if you have any questions for him, you can direct them to either him or myself, and we can both try to answer them for you. I think signage is something that you really want to focus on. A lot of the property is going to be kept in outlots and retained as natural area, and a lot of these have environmental soils, environmental constraints. They have wet soils and those kinds of things. They're going to be the detention areas. They're working very hard to preserve as much of the natural trees that they can on the property. It's really kind of a unique property. It's not just farmland like we've seen with some of the other proposals, namely Karen's Corner and Deer Trails, which were over by Menards. This is actually a piece of property where I think they've used the PUD regulations to full advantage to work with the land and to try to get a very high quality development on it. One of the key features that I see is the pathway segment that'll run from Deerwood Drive clear over to what is now the Herons Creek Forest Preserve. That is a segment to nowhere right now, but the former CF Industries property, which is right up just north of this, they're looking to redevelop that. They're actually working right now to rehab that property and bring in tenants. They would like to have a pathway system as part of that rehabilitation. So this segment could become a very viable segment very shortly. Also to the west is the Route 53 extension right-of-way. Kind of up in the air right now. There doesn't seem to be a lot of political interest in making that happen. But if that should redevelop, let's say, as an environmental corridor with pathways, this would provide ready access to that as well. So I think it's a really valuable pathway link that in the future will serve us very well. 19 lots, again, I think very well organized. The plan and the plat are all in conformance with the village code. They have been reviewed, the engineering plans and all have been reviewed by our village engineer, and he is very confident that this can work. This is a preliminary approval, so whatever recommendations you make tonight will be forwarded on to the village board. They can incorporate those into the ordinance that will be coming up on the 23rd. It would be very easy to amend your recommendations in there. But what's more important is you will get a second bite at the apple, if you will. This is preliminary approval. They will have to come back for a final approval. And if the final is in conformance with the preliminary, and there's always a little fine-tuning that takes place, but as long as there's no wholesale changes that would be made, it should be very perfunctory. It's almost like a rubber stamp kind of thing, as long as the final is in conformance with the preliminary. So the signage that you have before you will be at the entranceway of the development. It will be.
Can I interrupt for 1
driveway.
second, Jim? Excuse
Yes,
me,
I'm
but
sorry.
I don't, excuse me for interrupting, but I don't see signage in the materials that I was given on the 11th.
Yeah,
Okay,
likewise.
you
I
should have a
yeah.
packet of engineering information.
Oh,
On page 11 of 15.
Yes,
Page 11 of what? Which document?
It's called,
it says Philip Estates submittal, I think.
no, I don't think that's the one.
Hold on.
no, it's Philip Estates Attachments.
attachment.
I think so, yeah.
Yes,
Thank you, thank
go
you.
to page
Yeah.
11, right.
I
Got
had
it. Thank
exactly
you.
the same question.
Thank you.
And I just included all of those in there so you could see everything. Again, a lot of it is not really within the purview of the Architectural Commission, but I always think if you have a complete picture, it gives you a better feel for what's being proposed and what you're actually looking at. So you've got, you know, engineering plans, sewer, water, storm water. You've got everything that's in there. The signage is proposed to be in a landscape island at the main entrance to the subdivision. They do have a secondary entrance that you can see. It will be grass created, and that's for emergency purposes, but we'll have a pathway segment in it, which I think is really nice. I think you should always have two means of ingress and egress to a development, unless it's incredibly small. The ground sign will be double-faced. It will be 24 square feet. They would be entitled to 40 square feet. It will be mounted on a veneered stone base that's 2 feet high by 8 feet long. It appears to be outside of the vision triangle, which is something we can always condition on that to make sure that it is outside of that and doesn't cause any sightline issues. I do have the standards in there that you could review if you like. There is no lighting with this proposal other than lighting that is included with the signage. They do not have a fixture type and illumination source determined yet, but again, that could be a condition of this approval, and then those details, and again, that's something that you would typically see from preliminary to final, that level of detail coming back at the final approval. I don't have any elevations for you. They are telling us that these lots will be sold individually, and it will be basically a custom home kind of development. So I think that's a very encouraging aspect of the proposal as well. So if you have any questions for me or Larry, we'll be happy to try to answer them for you.
Okay, thanks, Jim. So let's do like we normally do. I think there's three main issues on this, right? Or three main topics. So let's just kind of keep them in those respective baskets with all due respect. So the first one is the plan and plat, and I'll just run through everybody on that. Then we'll do the signage, and then we'll conclude with the landscaping. So from the plan and plat, Laura, you have any kind of questions on that? And you want to talk about anything that you see on the plan and plat?
Not on that,
Okay.
no.
Jean, anything from you on the plan and plat?
I don't, but I have to say, I don't recall being involved in reviewing a subdivision at this stage. I may have, I think we may have looked at Karen's Corner
And Deer Trail.
when I was on the commission. Sorry?
Karen's Corner and Deer
Jim?
Trail. You looked at both of those.
Deer Trail?
About 2017, maybe.
Okay. So I don't have any particular questions, but I guess I would be curious to know if Jim had any other guidance for us, or if Commissioner Cohen wouldn't have reviewed this at all before tonight's hearing. Is that right, Jim?
Lynn?
Yes.
She would have reviewed it just like any other commissioner would have. She got the same materials that you all did.
But she didn't leave any comments with you?
No. She did not
Okay.
leave any comments with me at all. You do have a copy of the approved plat that's, again, in that exhibit. Again, I think it's a much better design. I think the open space is more well distributed throughout the entire development. There was a concern raised by the Planning Commission with the previously approved design regarding flag lots and other little design features that I think they have really remedied with this design. The configuration is similar, but I think they've done, again, a much better job with laying it out and really protecting the open space and the species that are on site. I think it's a better design.
Okay. Well, and knowing that it's preliminary and that our approval it would be preliminary, I have no objections to it at all.
Okay. Thank you. Matthew, any commentary that you want to add on the plat and the plan and plat, excuse me?
No, nothing on that.
Okay. John?
Nor do I. No, I don't see anything that is concerning. I think in general, it seems to be a nice layout.
Okay. Thank you. Alan?
I too believe it's a very attractive option alternative to Long Grove, and very much in respect to what we've had for custom communities in the past. The only question is, the sewer, is that adjacent to the current property to this Phillips Estates, or is that going to be provided, with some other subdivisions or any other communities to go forward?
Sanitary sewer and the water are both coming from the Glenstone subdivision to the north.
Oh, okay.
They have negotiated an agreement with Glenstone for those services. In particular, the sanitary will go to Outlot E, where there will be a lift station, and that will actually push the effluent across Cuba Road and into the sanitary sewer system that is up there. The county has actually asked that they upgrade that lift station so that vacant property to the east, which is currently in agriculture, could potentially be serviced someday should that develop. So I guess the point of that is there's plenty of capacity in the line to serve Glenstone, this development, as well as future development which may occur in the area.
Thank you.
All right. I got a couple questions maybe or comments. So I'm flipping through different pages, so I apologize. But the basins that you have, they're indicated that they're dry. So the intent on those is that they're essentially going to be dry basins. They're not going to hold water. Is that correct?
Yeah, Jim, I can answer that question. Actually, the Outlot D is dry.
Okay.
Outlot G will be a dry basin. Outlot F will be a wet bottom. So we're anticipating, anywhere from 6 inches of water, perhaps, and the plants that are intended to go there would be more of a wetland bottom, wet-loving plant material.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. I think, and everything's kind of flowing. We don't really we have some contours on the one drawing, but they're too hard to read at that scale. But everything's flowing towards to outlet D, G, and F essentially then, correct?
That's correct, yeah. Everything eventually ends up at Outlot G, the southeast corner.
G, okay. All right, and then from there,
everything flows from west to east, actually kind of northwest to southeast, and then it drains into Buffalo Creek, which is just south of this property.
Okay, no, that's good. Thank you. I don't know if I have any other questions. So the way we'll do this is I'll ask for a motion to approve what we see and what is shown in this particular case without any recommendations, unless anybody wants to make the motion with recommendations on just specifically to the plan and plat. And then we'll go to the signage and then we'll conclude with the landscaping. So any motion on the plan and plat, please?
Unless anyone has any reservations, I'll make a motion that we approve the plan of plat as we see it here.
I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so moved. So, go ahead.
So do we need, Jim, do we need to note that it was the approved plat, not the preliminary plat that we're approving?
It is the preliminary plat that you're approving.
Okay.
Okay.
So, and
So-
I will, when I write that up, I will put the date on it, that it's the one you looked at that was in your exhibits, so that there is no confusion as to what we're talking about.
Yeah, so on Jim, I think just if I could speak for everybody, let's make all our motions around the idea that it's not necessarily that we're approving things, but that we don't have any further recommendations on the preliminary, and that we would expect to see full detailed plans when they're prepared for final review and approval. So right now, again, just taking the preliminary, and that we essentially don't have any recommendations at this point in time. This way, it reserves our right to be able to comment at a later date. The rest of the commissioners, are you okay with that, Promise?
Yeah, that
Yes.
sounds like a good distinction, George. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Okay, Jim, if you could note that, please, and then I think it helps the group. Okay, fantastic. All right, thank you. All right, the next one is the signage. Yeah, and Gina, I had the same thing. I couldn't find it. Now I'm glad you pointed it out, because I was able to kind of zero in on it. So let me go around the horn again, and I'll just go in the same order. Laura, do you have any questions, comments on the signage?
For now, it looks good. I mean, we do want to see what the actual colors and materials you're going to be using, right?
Yes.
The final.
Yes, I agree.
Yes.
Okay. And let me add this, let's make sure that whoever does make the motion, that we include that it's clear of the vision triangle. It's 5 feet high, so it's getting to that point where we just got to kind of be careful. It depends on where it's located. And Jim will get this joke, but we want to make sure it doesn't interfere with local roads. And I'll tell you more why I said that later.
I get it.
I'll explain to the rest of the commissioners what that means. To the petitioner, please don't be worried about it. Well, I'll tell you now, I've taken a new position with the Illinois Department of Transportation, and I'm the Bureau Chief of Local Roads and Streets. So Cuba Road falls under the jurisdiction of IDOT in this particular case, and therefore it's all local roads and streets. And so, that's where I come in. And then also let's note, whoever makes the motion, that we want to see further details on the lighting and how that will be screened and and how it will be illuminated. So with that said, without further ado, Jean, do you have any comments or questions or you want to add?
No, I think it's very attractive. My question was about the lighting and whether or not the lighting was going to be screened with landscaping and all of that, but I'm assuming all of those details will be in the next review that we participate in.
That's correct. We'll have a detailed planting plan. The width of the median that the sign's in is 5 feet wide. So we'll have an opportunity to plant around the lights, and they'll have a cutoff on them. And I'm not sure what the wattage is going to be, but it's not going to be a bright, intense light. I don't believe it will be an LED light.
Okay.
Well, we'll come back with final drawings and spec sheets on the light fixtures.
Yeah, and
great.
Larry, just so you know, the fixture itself needs to be screened so you don't see the fixture. So it's like the light coming up from a bush or whatever you use to screen it, and
Okay.
it hits the sign and you don't see the fixture at all. Whether you want to use wood material or rocks or plant material, that's all up to you, but that fixture needs to be screened from view, and that's the detail that I believe Gene is looking for with regard to the lighting. And we will need to know that the illumination source. You said it won't be LED, so if it's halogen or whatever, oftentimes there'll be a specification that you'll give us with regard to the fixture that'll have that information in it. So if you just submit that with your final plans, I think that'll give us enough to understand what you're proposing and how you're going to deal with those issues.
Okay, perfect, Jim.
Okay.
Do
Anything
you know
else,
the
Jim?
width of the actual sign? That's.
Oh, so the thickness of the sign?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be we'll probably build this out of CMU block, so 8 inches with a 4-inch veneer on either side.
Okay.
So 16, probably about 6 plus or minus 16 inches.
Okay.
And then the cap will have probably a 1-inch overhang. So 18 inches at its widest point, I think, at the top of the sill.
Yeah, I have a question. So the base of it, there's not much room there on either face of the sign for landscaping or for lighting. So it would seem that the lights, if they're coming from the ground, they have to have a little landscaping in front of them to hide them. They're going to be coming up at a pretty steep angle. Is that going to throw a shadow caused by the sill on the base? Is that going to throw a shadow part way up the sign?
That's a good point.
Because the sill has an overhang?
Because it has an overhang, and also because the island that this sign is sitting in it looks pretty narrow or shallow, so you won't be able to get the lighting very far away from the face of the base.
Well, I believe the median is a curbed island, and it's 5 feet from inside of curb to inside of curb. And so our sign is about, let's say, 18 inches. So you're right. So we don't have a lot of room, but I still think we can make it work. I don't want to put the fixtures directly behind the curb. I'd like to hide them and tuck them in closer. So I think I have my work cut out for me to figure out the proper fixture. And that overhang on the sill, I was thinking it was only going to be an inch or so, just
Sure.
to provide for a drip edge for water, to keep it away from the face of the veneer.
Yeah. Well, we trust that you'll work it out.
Right. I will. I'll come back with a plan for you guys.
Yeah, that's something to think about. That's a good point.
Yeah, no, John, you brought up a great point, and I have kind of the same concern. I'll save that for my turn in a minute. But let me just kind of keep going. Gene, you were done, correct?
Yes, okay.
Okay. No, thank you. Matthew, do you have any comments or questions on the sign?
I mean, not anything that hasn't already been brought up. I think it looks good. It's just going to be a question of, the lighting and then kind of the colors of the sign itself.
Okay. John, anything else you want to add behind the lighting? Give you that opportunity.
No, thank you. I think that's we've voiced most or all of the comments and concerns, and I would echo those.
Yeah. Alan, you have anything you want to raise?
I too, once again, believe that everything of relevance has been addressed at this point.
Okay, and I want to kind of just echo what John has brought up. I have, just because the width of it is 5 feet, and you're taking 1.5 feet out. Forget the sill for a second; it may cast a shadow, but you're talking now about 2 feet that in the maximum, a little less than that you have, and to be able to kind of say it, I think maybe a little differently from what John was saying, it's the angle of that up angle. Either it's going to shine directly vertical, it's got to have a little pitch to it. So that could be handled by the particular fixture that you have. But to then say, I'm also going to be able to get some sort of landscaping feature in that 5 feet, that may present some challenges to you, such that it could work in the way that you want it to work. Larry, I think you have to be very conscious of that. And you don't create either a blind spot or a light spot. Somebody would come in that. So, I mean, there could be other ways of doing it. There's different kind of lighting fixtures and things of that nature. But, you know, I think our recommendation to you in the motion will be around the idea that be conscious of the space such that it could work with the masking of the lights, as we call it, and that it all kind of fits in what looks to be a rather confined sliver, if you will.
Okay. No, I understood. Yeah, I understand what you guys are looking for.
And then the other thing I typically bring up, Larry, is that, you know, just be conscious and give us some details on what the foundation looks like so that it sits well. You know, Jim brought up earlier, you're well aware that maybe that's a little bit more marshy. Get down below the frost line with your foundation for your sign so it doesn't heave and shove or lean over time. You build it once, you build it right, and we're good. And then the other thing I always bring up, and we've talked about it slightly, is it looks like it's probably clear for the most part of the vision triangle. That depends on a couple things on the ground covers that you have and where that conservancy line is in terms of where a normal stop bar would be on a car, such that they could look both left and right unimpeded. And there's a quick old calculation you do on that. From this picture, there's not enough information to know that. We would expect just for you to be able to articulate that in some fashion that it's clear, and you know, safety is always a big priority for us.
Understood. Yeah.
Okay. That's great. Is there any other comments from the commissioners before I ask for a motion? Okay, can I get what I will call now a motion of recommendation based on the preliminary sign information that has been provided us, keeping in mind that such motion should include at least 2 recommendations we know, outside division triangle, 3, that we need information on the lights, and in particular on the lights, how it's going to be masked and how it's going to be kind of configured within a narrow median. You guys want me? I'll make the motion on this one then. So motion to approve the preliminary sign as provided materials, based on the materials provided with the notations of 3 recommendations. The first one being that the sign should lie clearly and be kind of proven or shown to fall outside the vision triangle. For safety of both the subdivision people, visitors, and the public in general. That the lighting be provided details, cut sheets, and the way that would be masked so that it conforms with the village code. And then the third recommendation being that due to the width of the median and the proposed width of the sign, that that special attention be shown and considered to the style of lighting and how it will reflect up to illuminate the sign properly. Maybe, you know, one of the things that you may want to consider, it may not be 1 light, you may need 2 is spaced out so that you get a good spread of light, because there's 2 components to it. I know you have 2 of them there, or at least it looks like you do. But it's that angle of that light such that it illuminates the sign in a good way. It doesn't create any blinding areas for drivers. Is there anything else I'm missing that anybody else wants to include in our recommendations?
George, one other thing in my notes, color and materials.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah. On colors and materials to be used in the signage.
Absolutely, yeah. Details, please provide as the fourth recommendation. They provide details. I'll make it a 5th one too. The 4th one being the colors and the types of materials. Although you talk about metal pin letters, in particular, are those individual letters that will be done, or will they be some way molded together? So details on their attachment, color, size. All those kinds of details, Larry, those are going to be helpful for us.
Correct.
And then,
okay.
Yeah. And the 5th one would be just to provide us details on the foundation and the way that a cut section through it, such that we can understand that it won't sink over time, and that it'll be stable and it'll be below the frost line. That's good. Is there anything else?
No,
No. Do I have a
Got it.
second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
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 So moved. No opposed. So we're good. Thank you, everybody. And then the last item we have on this particular item is the landscaping. I'll go around the horn again, but again, let's keep in mind this is preliminary. I know there was a letter in here. I'll be honest with you, I didn't have a chance to read through that. So if anybody needs a little extra time to be able to do that, when I call on you, if you want to kind of, pass, I'll come back to you, I promise, just so that we hear everybody and we get everybody's opinion and input on this one. So I'll again go across the line I have in the past, or during this meeting rather. Laura, do you have any thing you want to talk about in regards to landscaping?
My question is, are they going to move the trees when they have to build, the ones that are good? Will they move them and then move them back? Do you know?
Gary, do you want to speak to the landscaping plan in general? I know that's your forte.
Yes. So Laura, I think you're referring to transplanting possibly, or moving.
Correct, right.
Trees.
Because you have to
So-
there's probably some good trees in certain areas where they're going to be building.
Right. So I've been involved in the property. I think the first time I visited the property was 2007 maybe, or 2008. So I've done probably 4 or 5 tree surveys, and I've seen the trees and I've studied the trees, and we have a pretty good handle on the conditions and all the species of the trees. We have about 185 trees that we have taken inventory on. And if you look through the packet, there is a tree survey, and I put different colors on them. There's fair trees, good trees. I think red is poor and dead trees. And what we've tried to do is locate the road to avoid some of these better looking trees. And the lots have been positioned. So for the most part, a lot of the major specimen trees are falling in between the lots on the lot lines. But we do have instances, for example, on lot 3, where we do have a cluster of trees. Some of those trees are good, some of those trees are fair. So we're expecting, as this is a custom home lot, that the architect and possibly the landscape architect would work with the village arborist to see what trees could be preserved. But to answer your question, I don't see these trees being moved. These are fairly large trees. They're anywhere from 12 inches in size all the way to 36 inches in size. So there's some very old trees. We had estimated maybe over 225 years old for some of the oak trees. And one thing that you'll notice is that the entrance, we're using the old road that was there. If you drive into the site today, you're basically driving on what we intend for the new road to be located. And so you'll notice the trees on either side. Some of them were planted probably in the last 40 to 50 years. But there are oak trees there that are over a couple hundred years old that we are preserving. And those are found around Outlot F, and then just north of Outlot G. And then on the south property line, we have a cluster of probably 40 or 50 some trees that are just gorgeous that we intend to preserve. So they're a little too large to transplant.
But do you expect the architects to build around it, like the driveways, and some of them might be?
We do.
Okay.
Oh, well, we do. I mean, I'm hoping, and our hope is that it would be a creative site plan for each lot, and that if there were trees, for example, lot 8, if you look at lot 8, there's some beautiful specimen trees on the east side of that lot. So we're hoping that the driveway would be on the west side of the lot, so we would preserve those trees. But I think these trees will have to be looked at on a case-by-case basis as each lot comes in for a building permit. And Jim and I have spoken, and I believe your village arborist would be involved in reviewing the landscape plans and the tree preservation plans for each lot.
Yeah, and Laura, two things. The development that's just to the west of this, which is Deerwood Estates, has some very heavily wooded lots. And in the building plans that we've seen, the property owners have worked very hard to try to preserve as many trees as they can. I think homeowners these days look at those as an asset and something that improves their property. So I think they will try to preserve mature trees to the greatest extent possible. In the event that that cannot happen, and it's a what we call a preserved species, per our tree preservation ordinance, oaks, hickories, I think walnuts, black cherries, there's a few species that are protected. They will need to be replaced. As Larry said, obviously you can't replace a 12-inch oak, can't move it, but you could put, you have to do it on a per caliper basis. So if you've got a 12-inch oak, you could come in with maybe 2 6s or 3 4s or something like that. So you have to replace it on that caliper basis with smaller trees. On site, I think we would perhaps consider it in the development somewhere if that was feasible. And again, our village arborist would get involved with that. But that's how we deal with protected species that have to be removed for whatever reason.
Okay. Laura, do you have anything else?
No.
Okay. Jean?
Well, actually, Jim, you answered that. My question was whether or not we did have a tree preservation ordinance and how this would fit into that. That's interesting to me. I have not read it, and I would like to read it now. But it's interesting to me that a developer would be able to take down a 250-year-old tree and replace it with 1 or 2 new ones. Are you telling us that's what the ordinance says?
Well, if it's a 36-inch tree, as Larry alluded to, it would probably be more than 1 or 2 new ones. The site that really comes to mind was where Arboria was, and they had a lot of smaller protected species, but when you look at it from a total caliper perspective, not just an individual tree caliper perspective, they had way more trees they needed to put on site than they could handle. The way we handle that is we will take cash in lieu of trees being placed, and then the trees will be replanted at other open space areas within the village where they will thrive. But I think on this site, if they had to take a big tree down, I think within their open space or hopefully on the lot, that's the way we would really like to see it done. And that was the issue we had with Arboria. They simply didn't have enough space to put all the replacement trees on there that needed to be done per the ordinance.
Interesting. Okay. So I have a question, Larry. I'm curious. So was this, you said that there might have been a couple trees that were planted at the entrance 40 or 50 years ago at the original road to this area?
Correct.
So is that where those sugar maples are? Because I read your the survey. Sugar maples don't, I mean, are those native? Would they have just grown here without being planted?
Sugar maples are native. I think some of the sugar maples may have been planted years ago, just given the size, because they're a lot smaller as compared to maybe an oak tree, or there's some hickories out there. So the trees at the entrance consist of honey locusts, as you know, are not native, and they're pretty large. And we just got through pruning. I don't know if anybody's seen the property over the last year or so, but we've done an extensive buckthorn and honeysuckle removal program. We've actually removed 17 acres of buckthorn last fall, and we're going to follow up with another eradication of some of the seedlings that may come up this spring. But we have completely transformed this property. It's a gorgeous piece of property. It's rolling. It's pastoral. I think to answer a couple of the commissioner's questions about whether or not we're taking down any significant trees, for the road or for the infrastructure, we're not. We're actually saving all those trees. And you know, like I said, it would be case by case or lot by lot basis for some of the trees that actually fall within the lot. But in terms of the infrastructure, the water, the sewer, and the asphalt, the pavement, the grading, we're pretty confident that we'll be saving all the trees that's been represented on the site plan.
Great. I think that's terrific. You know, with that encouragement and with the notation that everything is being done in accordance with the tree preservation ordinance, I have no reservations and or no other questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Gene, just a side note, this is where our PUD regulations come into play. If they were coming in for straight 2-acre lots, it would be like a cookie cutter development. So they wouldn't have the flexibility and the ability really to configure the lots like Larry was talking about, where they can actually configure the lots to save trees. So again, I think they've used our regulations and the flexibility it provides to really come up with a nice high quality development that takes the natural features into consideration, which is kind of what the PUDs are all about.
Great. That's good to hear. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Matthew, do you have anything you want to ask or question?
Yeah, just I guess in terms of, I guess we addressed lot 3 is pretty crowded with trees. I guess the question would be is how many trees would have to be removed from that particular lot to allow for the home to be built?
Matthew, that's a very good question. The lot size is slightly less, let's see, I'm reading it here, it's slightly less than an acre. I think one thing that's a little misleading is, you know, the size of the home that could be built on these lots is quite large. I would have to say that maybe 1 or 2 at the north end of the lot, maybe the 2 trees on the east side of lot 3, actually the text of lot 3 would have to come down. Perhaps you would wind a drive through some of those trees. And keep in mind, a lot of those trees are in fair condition, and some of them may be hinged on, you know, fair the poor condition. So we would have to probably go through or the arborist would have to look on a case by cases with these trees to see which ones could be preserved. But I think you can get a good sized house in the back of that lot, and you would have, you know, basically a very mature woodland as your front yard. I think it could happen.
Okay. And then, I mean, I guess I know we kind of talked about the replacement of trees elsewhere. And there does appear to be several lots with no trees on them. Would those potential new trees be placed in the same lots they came from, or would they be potentially placed in some of the lots without trees?
Matthew, as the homes are going to be custom homes, I'm not sure that we would be able to put trees on somebody else's property. Per the ordinance, we would like to see them put on the lot where they came from as a replacement. If that couldn't be done, then my suggestion would be that they be placed in the open space on the property, so they're still at least within the development. If some agreement could be reached, or let's say the same developer buys 2 lots, you know, I think we could work something out where if you couldn't put trees on one lot, we could put them on his other lot to satisfy the regulation that our tree preservation ordinance provides.
Okay. Okay. I think that's the only questions I had.
Very good. John, you have anything?
I don't think so. I think it's been a good discussion and covered most or all of my areas of interest or concern.
Very good. Thank you. Alan, do you have anything?
No, I don't have any different concerns either. Thank you.
Okay. I got a couple of things I want to bring up. Let's see if I get the right thing here. Okay, good. You know, Larry, is there any consideration? I heard your discussion and I thank you for your comments and kind of working with us on this. And we're at the recommendation stage, so I think it's probably appropriate to bring up what I what I see right now. I think you talked a lot about lot 3. I think lot 5 also presents some challenges because the cluster of trees, those probably will go. I know you can't save everything, but they fall kind of right diagonally, if you will, in a kind of northwest, southeast, kind of direction through lot 5. So just tell me what you're thinking about with lot 5.
Well, let's see. I think it's easier if we go to LP1. You can see where the majority of the trees fall are in the front yard setback or just inside the building envelope. So if I'm counting trees, maybe there would be 1 and 2 trees that may have to come down, possibly to get a building footprint in there. I mean, that's a pie-shaped lot. So maybe the house basically is oriented towards the south end of that lot. And not the north end, but I think it's doable. I think these lot sizes are, they're generous. Let's see that size, right? They're slightly over an acre. Yeah.
No, I don't disagree with you, and I just wanted to hear what you were going to say about 5, because my other comment would be, right now you have the bike trail or the walking path, the stone path between lots 3 and 4. And I just wonder if you guys want to look at, and I think I would make it a recommendation that you guys would at least consider relocating that to potentially between lots 2 and 3, such that you could wiggle a little bit more space. And in case the house of lot 3 has to slide to, that would be to the west. I think I got my directions right. The stone path won't be so close to the house, where if you put it between 2 and 3, you're kind of using those trees to some degree as a natural barrier for preservation, and then the path would go there. I don't know if you guys looked at that. I don't know if there's other problems with that, but I would make a recommendation that you would at least consider that, because it may just give you future kind of wiggle room, if you will, to kind of move some of the lot lines around a bit.
So, as Jim mentioned in his introduction, there's a second means of access to Cuba Road. And that basically is going to be designed for a fire lane access. And so we decided, I think it's 12 feet or 14 feet, and that land is not part of either lot 4 or lot 3.
Okay.
So it's in its own easement. So we decided to put a path that would connect with the conservancy area to the street.
Okay.
And that will actually be go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's going to be a grasscrete entrance exit, so it will not be highlighted, I guess you could say. It'll be somewhat camouflaged, but it does provide that second means of ingress and egress should, something happen to the main entrance. And again, I just think that's good site design.
No, I don't disagree with that. I'm just questioning the fact that if that's 12, 18 feet, would it be better served between 2 and 3? Same idea, same everything, but located such that then you have a little bit more, right now you have that somewhat reserved, and lot 3 moves to the west a little bit, and then that same idea goes between lots 2 and 3, where it seems from an existing species standpoint, you really are not going to interfere. You just buy yourself a little bit more space. You don't have to take the recommendation, but I think we're going to make it as a recommendation for you to at least look at where that grassway would go.
Okay. Why don't we take a look at it?
Yeah, that's all I'm asking. Yeah, that's all I'm asking. Okay. It may help you, and it may help you preserve some of those trees. I'm looking at it off. It's a very nice exhibit. I'm looking at it and I'm just thinking, okay, I could then move lot 3 18 feet to the west, and does that help me? And it may. And 18 feet doesn't seem like a lot of space. I agree; these are very generous lots, but it may just it's something to at least consider at this stage of the game, because you're at preliminary. Okay. Is there anything else? And if you guys want, I've got some notes here. I can make the motion on this one, or does anybody else?
I have one question, Jim, and
Yes.
I am really fumbling with this one, but I had heard years ago that there was a plan. I don't know if it was codified in any type of ordinance or anything, but there was a plan eventually to link all of the neighborhoods in Long Grove together with some type of path. I don't know what it's called. Like I said, I don't know if it's codified.
It is codified, and it's something that they're doing here. Ideally, we would like to see all the open, and it's actually part of the comprehensive plan. It's one of the goals and objectives, to have open spaces in particular, and open spaces within developments all linked via pathways through the developments, through the scenic corridors in particular. So yes, there's not a hard and fast plan, but with most of the what I'll call modern developments that we've seen, the pathways are in there, and that linkage is something that's very desirable.
So my question would be, whatever that concept is called, would this satisfy that? Would this trail? It would. Okay, good.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to make sure, so they wouldn't have to go back later.
Going from Deerwood to where the Route 53 right-of-way is, if that should become some kind of environmental corridor or natural corridor with pathways in it, there's a linkage there. Plus, you've got a linkage that's getting you over to Herons Creek Forest Preserve. So
right, that's what I wanted to make sure.
It's a real critical segment, I think, that has a lot of potential for good linkages.
I didn't want them to have to change anything after they went ahead and built this to satisfy that requirement later if that became necessary. So I'm glad that that was anticipated and taken care of. Great, very good.
Okay. Anything else anybody wants to bring up before we make a motion? We good? Okay, so I will make a motion on this one. So in regards to the landscaping, we have the following recommendations. Some of those are quite obvious and things we've talked about, but for the record, we'll add them. The first one is that please continue to work and seek the advice of the village arborist. And I know you're doing that and you're going to continue to do that. We appreciate that, but please do that. Continue to do that. You talked about it, and I'll just codify it in some words, but that you have a creative landscaping plan with some adaptive management as each lot is developed, so that the older historic trees that are on the property, especially those of native species, are preserved to the greatest extent possible. That you continue to seek the advice of and follow the Long Grove Tree Preservation Ordinance and what's in the PUD, such again that it ties to the second recommendation. There's preservation of those historic longstanding trees. And then the fourth one would be that there's a consideration and some look at the location of that second grassway egress to Cuba Road that's presently located between lot 3 and 4, to consider moving it perhaps between lots 2 and 3, such that you could then move lot 3 over 18 feet to the west. And that may introduce the ability to save a few more trees on the east side of lot 3. If that's okay, if anybody else doesn't have anything to add, I think I got it all. But please feel free to amend the motion. If not, then I'll seek a second.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
So moved. So congratulations. We wish you luck. We'll look forward to seeing you, Larry, for you and your team to come back and continue to build on this.
Great.
It looks really like a nice thing you're developing here.
Great. I appreciate everybody's time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Okay, take care. Thank you.
Bye now.
Thank you. All right, before everybody goes, I know I jumped the agenda earlier. Matthew, I'm going to put you on the spot. It's part of the hazing that we have. You must tell us your entire life story in less than 5 minutes. Don't leave out any details. We have it. I'm going to double check. There will be a quiz at the end of this. No, I'm kidding around. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. Again, welcome to the commission.
Thank you. Well, you all know my name is Matthew, so that's out of the way. I actually grew up in Palatine and have lived in the area my whole life. I lived in Palatine, went to college in Milwaukee, came back here, lived in Mundelein, Deerfield, and then Buffalo Grove with my wife and kids for, I think we were there for 13 years or so. And then we moved to Long Grove about 3 or 4 years ago. I think it's all coming up on 4 years. And I remember, coming to Long Grove as a kid all the time, and I just loved kind of coming here and walking through the downtown and seeing the whole area. So I've always kind of had a love for Long Grove, and now that I live here, I kind of enjoy it even more. So I just felt like, living here, I felt like I needed to kind of add back to my enjoyment of the place by joining the commission. And, I had, my whole career has kind of been based in real estate. I started out with like residential real estate home lending for like large tract projects. And then I moved over to multifamily residential was where I work now. So I just kind of have always had interest in real estate, and was, in talking with the chairwoman about this particular position. That sounded very interesting. And I thought it would be kind of a good fit, and felt like something I would really enjoy doing and being a part of.
Well, on behalf of everyone, I'll let them welcome you as well, but thank you. I welcome you to the commission, and, many years that hopefully you'll serve this commission and add your expertise.
I look forward to it.
Okay.
Thank you for volunteering.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Really appreciate having you join our commission.
Thanks.
The pay is great.
Matthew, one thing I would add, this is Jim. If you ever have any questions, please feel free to contact me. I tell all the new commissioners, the only stupid question is the one you don't ask. So feel free to contact me if you have any questions or need direction or whatever.
That sounds good. Thanks.
Okay. And then, no, thanks, Jim. Thanks to everybody. I got one last thing at the end, but the other thing is we traditionally look at the 2021 Architectural Commission meeting calendar.
I have something to raise also before we adjourn, George.
Sure. No
I can
problem.
do it after we approve the meeting calendar if you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Is there, and I'll make, we've got minutes, we got no problems, time to do that. So, we'll stay with the agenda the way it is. It's always the third Monday of the month traditionally. And, we talk a little bit about what happens in January, February, but that's already kind of swiftly gone by in this year. So Jim, is there anything else you want to add on the calendar?
No, we just need a motion to approve. You summed it up correctly. Third Monday, 7 o'clock, basically status quo. We need to do this for Open Meetings Act purposes.
Right. So do I have a motion to approve the calendar as Jim has submitted to us and published?
Sure, I'll move. Oh.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Who's moving?
Jean, go ahead.
Sure, I'm
Jean?
happy to make a motion to approve the 2021 Architectural Commission meeting calendar as provided in the materials presented by Jim.
Very
I
good.
second.
You said,
Second, Laura, all in favor?
is that 2021 or 2022 now?
It would be 2021
Okay, sorry.
to the end of this calendar year.
Okay.
Okay, Jean, you had something you wanted to add?
I do. Jim, I sent an email to Jim a couple weeks ago. I was driving, it was after the heavy snowfall, and I was very concerned because from the angle that I was driving, I couldn't tell, but from the angle I was driving south on 83, it looked like the roof was collapsing on the greenhouse that is on the east side of 83. So Jim, I'm just wondering if you heard anything from the buildings department on that?
I know they went out. I know they looked at it, very shortly after you emailed me. Just so you know, that's a property maintenance issue, and just in the last month or so, we have, gotten a new contract with Mundelein. Buffalo Grove used to handle those services for us. They opted out of the contract, so Mundelein is out there. I can double check.
You mean building, excuse me, you mean building inspections?
Yes, that's all being done.
It's handled by
via
Mundelein? Okay.
Yes. We had B&F Technical, then we went to, I think it was Mundelein. Yeah, Mundelein's been doing our building inspections for quite some time. They just took on property maintenance. So this is a property maintenance issue. I know they went out there, and I don't know what the result was, but they went out there very shortly after you had informed me of it. And I will double back with interim village manager Bill Balling. And oh, that's something else you guys don't know. Dave has left. For those of you who don't know, he left in October and took a job in Monroe, Wisconsin, Swiss cheese capital of America. And Bill Balling was appointed as the interim manager. We are looking for a new village manager, and I believe the interview process is underway, and in probably a month or so, with a little bit of luck, we should have a new full-time village manager. Sorry.
Okay. Well, best of luck with that process. But I would like to say there has been a lot of focus on downtown Long Grove, and absolutely justifiably so. No question about it. But I do believe a second priority needs to be made, and has been made, with Sunset Grove and the new nursing home, the name I've forgotten, because 83 is a major thoroughfare. And for a lot of people who don't make the trip to downtown Long Grove, they do drive up and down 83. I believe that, and I don't mean to sound harsh, but I believe that greenhouse property is a blighted property, and I think it looks terrible. And I don't know who the owner is, but I believe I think it's just being allowed to fall apart, and demolition by neglect cannot be allowed to happen in anywhere, but particularly on such an important thoroughfare for our village. And I've always thought that the village should do some type of landscaping and beautification of the midway, the grassy midways, along 83. And I understand that it would need an intergovernmental agreement or something with the state of Illinois, who might manage that or whatever. But 83 is a very important road for Long Grove. Thousands of people drive up and down it every single day. And so, I think the landscaping is important, but I really think that greenhouse it's time that something happened with that. And I would like to request that the village, someone get back to us by the next meeting and let us know what the status of that is, because I think it is just, there are plants growing out of the rooftop now, and it's just, it's terrible. So that is my request, that we hear from someone about that and let us know what's going on with that property.
Yeah, it's a bit of a difficult property because it's tied into the Briarcrest subdivision, and the approval for that was actually part of Briarcrest. The Briarcrest approval ordinance laid out certain parameters for, it was Omen's Flower Farm. It says when the flower farm goes out of business, that's supposed to revert to R1 3-acre lots. As a side note, when we approved our comprehensive plan in 2018, we floated some alternative plans that had townhouses and other kinds of things in there that were met with stiff opposition from the Briarcrest people. They basically came back and said, it says 1 acre or 3-acre lots. 3-acre lots is what we want to see. So until we can get someone that comes in with a development proposal that either satisfies the 3-acre requirement or is palatable to the Briarcrest people, I think any redevelopment is going to be difficult.
But we can't allow the building to just fall apart. and just
Well-
rot until that's redeveloped.
Right, that's a property maintenance issue and something that I know Mundeleин's working on. Whether we can actually require them to demolish it, I don't know.
Who are the owners right now? Do you know? Can you tell us that? Is it Leiter?
No. It's an investment company, I think, out of Northbrook. Briarcrest Investments, I think they call themselves, perhaps, something like that.
Well,
LLC, something like that.
I
Would a
think, let's urge,
Yeah.
maybe we could urge the village or to do something. George, can you come up with a motion?
No, I think, yeah, I think you're right, because I think it is an eyesore. I can tell you, at one time I thought that Billy Bunyan was gonna expand or close, and there was other things that they were thinking about. I remember it being in the comprehensive plan. So let's just do it, Jim. I mean, I think it's somewhat appropriate that, and I'll try to do it the best I can, Gene, is that, this architectural commission makes a motion that two things be looked at, in particular, the further dilapidation and the concerns that this architectural commission has in relation to that greenhouse on 83 on the south side, on the east side of 83, such that it doesn't become any further of an eyesore or a source of vandalism or anything that would detract people from the beauty of what Long Grove is. And then the second part is to work with the state of Illinois, only if you knew somebody who worked there. That is a state.
Can you help us with that?
Yeah, I may be. Because I think I know who I may want to talk to. Well, we'll talk offline on that one. Yeah, to see if I think the state would be. I mean, the person I'd probably go to is right to the secretary, and then he'd put me over to the Bureau of Design and Environment. But to look at that and to try to do some beauty and then other kinds of plant life enhancements to that median, to articulate both where the downtown is and where the corridor of Long Grove exists, such that it becomes denoted by its visual appearance as being a welcoming, warm, and place of nature, if you will, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Before we second, I totally agree with that. There are dead, I drive up and down it 1,000 times a day. There are dead honey locust trees every year that just sit there. If you look at the medians in Lincolnshire, they're gorgeous. They're very basic, but they're gorgeous. They have seasonal plantings. I am good friends with the village president over at Bannockburn. He designed them himself. Again, very basic, but beautiful. They're not just grass and honey locusts. I think it's time. I think we need to do something if we are trying to encourage development and in trying to encourage people to move here. I really think that this street is very, very, very important. And I can tell you, my 17-year-old son has said they could film a horror movie in that
Yeah.
greenhouse.
Yeah.
And, he's right. So I'd be happy to second the motion. And maybe
All in
we could
favor?
ask that we could get a response either from the developer or from the village by the next meeting.
Sure, an update. Yeah, I think let's please take Gene's comment as part of the motion, amend the motion as such. So we're all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
So is there anything else anybody else has? So if not, then unfortunately, I probably got some bad news for you guys. This is probably my last meeting.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wanted to do it in person. I've been waiting. I'm going through some significant life changes. Unfortunately, unforeseen. The last 2 years from my life have been pretty interesting, and that interesting is not quite the word I would use. So therefore, that results in me putting my house up to sale and relocating. So I will probably no longer be in Long Grove. I also have a bit of a conflict or a perceived conflict, I don't know if it's real, with my position with the state. And and working, with the Department of Transportation. I run a bureau, one of the biggest ones, run a $2 billion program. So things like North Kruger Avenue, as that kind of gets, built, comes through my bureau, and I had to approve it, made sure it was on the letting. So I handle all the local roads. I deal with some 29,000 different local public agencies all across the state. So it's a little bit of a busy job. I'll be around for the next month and a half, maybe even 2 months. But after that, then, I'll unfortunately end my almost 19 years in Long Grove, my almost 11 years on this commission. And I do that with a tremendous amount of respect for you all and the people who I've served with over the years, as well as a little sadness, because I was telling my son says, well, don't be sad. I said, I'm not sad because I'm sad. I'm sad because I enjoyed working with you. I enjoyed doing this. I think we did make a difference. Some of the suggestions and the ideas that have been brought forth that really kind of helped shape a lot of what, Gene, what you talked about, it, but making Long Grove a better place. I was a little kid, probably my recollection is 2 years old. We would come up here to go apple picking at Quigg's Apple Orchard. So this has been, I grew up in the city, in the heart of the city. So this has been in my DNA. This was not my desire. I was forced into the situation, unfortunately. What can I do except move on? This position with the state coincides with it. It allows me to make a difference at a statewide level and really begin to help local communities, counties, with some of their transportation planning and some of their solutions. I run the Rebuild Illinois program. Don't blame me because I didn't raise your motor fuel tax, but I administer that whole program for the state of Illinois. So Jim has already made me promise, and Bill's made me promise that more money comes to Long Grove. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to figure it out. But it's been my honor to serve with you all.
Well, we certainly appreciate your service and we'll miss you.
Yeah.
Definitely will miss you, George. And the only way we'll let you go is if before you go, you do a motion making workshop for all of us. Because nobody has ever or probably will ever do it better than you.
Oh, thank you, John. No, I don't know if I want to do any motions other than a motion to adjourn.
Well, thank you so much for everything that you've done.
Seriously, we'll miss you, George.
Yeah, I'm going to miss you guys too. Stay in touch. My email will stay the same. Let me know because I want to come back and visit, and I will be back to do that.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you. So let's, before I get any more sappy, motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Second.
So moved. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, George.
All right. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Best of luck.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night, Jim. Thank you.
Welcome.